Hi.
Hi, are you sure this course is just for 2499?
Yes, and you know this is the only course with this expertise across the world.
No way!
Yes way. Don't delay. Enroll now.
Geeks learning together.
Hi everyone, good evening. How are you all? I'm Dhani from Geeks for Geeks and I will be your host for today's session. Today we have two very special guests with us. I would like to welcome the co-founder of SuperK, Mr. Anil, and a co-team member, Mr. Kaushal. Hello.
Hey, hi guys.
How are you, Anil? How are you, Kaushal?
Great.
Great. So, before we go ahead with this session, I have been super intrigued since I heard the company's name. What inspired you to come with the name Super K? Like, how did you come up with this thing?
Cool. So we always wanted to go back and do something in the grocery space in the small towns, and we thought of understanding, what would relate more to the people there, right? So supermarkets in general is something which is aspirational for people going away and beyond the Kirana stores. So we thought that something more fancy, something which they feel like it's approachable, but also above their regular is what we thought we would come up with, and that is how we started thinking about the name Local Buy. That was the company name, but when we went ahead, when we talked to a lot of people, we realized that it did not really strike a chord with the mass regular audience. So we wanted to ensure that when we go across India, right, or even global, we needed basically a name or something which would stand out. So that's why we said that super is something which everyone understands, and because we are modernizing the Kiranas, we said that K would still remain from there. So that's how Super K.
That sounds amazing. I was almost certain sure it was super cautious, but okay. So, what inspired the idea of Super K for you? I understand the need of Karyana stores in India, but what struck the chord for you?
I think the multiple things would be wrong if I say that there's only one thing which stood out. For me, honestly, grocery has been a long-term crush. I always wanted to explore something in the grocery space, do something Malaysia, building tech and product for this company called Cowdim, which is Urban Company's Southeast Asian counterpart. So there, I was able to relate to a lot of the organized players out there in the market, be it in the Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Philippines, or in Indonesia, or Singapore. So all these KK Marts, Alpha Marts, they were all back home. My maternal family runs grocery stores and also owns rice mills and flour mills. So that connect along with the organized trade, we felt that this is the right time for us to build SuperK.
Right. So I'm really curious here. Did you like always plan to start a startup, or were you like in the line of job and then an idea inspired you?
Uh, Me personally, I've always been in that frame of mind itself that I wanted to do something of my own. So SuperK is the second startup that I'm doing. The first one was called Flabran, which was similar to CureFit. It did not take off as we expected, and all those learnings, along with my experience with some other startups like PhonePe, Hike, Byju's, all came together to build SuperK.
Okay, obviously the experience piles up and you do great things. So, what is the mission and the vision for your company?
Right. So I think the mission definitely is to enhance the grocery buying experience of the small towns of India, and the vision is to build an offline API for India. Right. So grocery is a way of entry for us into the market, and the idea is, can you make these Kirana stores as API endpoints where any digitally native company can come plug in on top of the SuperK network and give access to all their digital services to the rural parts of India through SuperK stores.
That's quite interesting. I mean, that's something really huge. I mean, it took some time for me to understand, but I think I get your point. So,
Yeah, so maybe I'll
a
just give a
very
small example for that as well, right? So imagine, the small towns, they do not have an access to, let's say, buy so they know that they can buy a Make My Trip ka package, but they're always unsure of the certainty of that happening. Now imagine an influencer who is sitting in the Kirana store, who is helping them make that purchase or make that transaction, and Make My Trip packages can be sold through SuperK stores. That's how we would imagine it to be.
so basically interconnecting everything that can be bought on social on online, right?
Any commerce happens through SuperK stores.
That's quite interesting. I mean, that's really quite interesting. So, a very common question that is often asked to startup founders: what was the problem that you faced, and like, what are the tips that you want to give to all the people who are watching this, who are thinking of starting their own startups?
So I think this also comes with a bit of an experience, right? So when we all did our first startups, let's say me, Neeraj, as well, right? So my other co-founder, both of us, when we did our first startup, it felt like, what are the problems that I'm facing today? Is that something? Can that be something better? But this time, we imagined that, what is the real problem that a large audience in this country is facing. So when we went ahead with that pursuit, that's how we found, again, it's not like the idea comes to instantaneously. It's a iterative process. For us, it was at least a 6 months of iterative process before coming up with what SuperK actually is today.
I mean, I can understand there is a lot of ideation that is required, because once you start learning from your mistakes, it's just that you want to build on things to avoid those mistakes. So, what would you describe the values? Like, what would you describe as the values that your employees follow?
I think in a grocery business, not many people understand that this is a business in which you find your unit economics first and then scale, rather than hitting scale and looking at unit economics. So the fundamental thing to understand here is frugality, which is imbibed into every individual in the company. And the second most important thing is ownership, right? So people need to own in a startup in the very early days. You need a lot of employees to, or say, a lot of champs around you to own any particular task that they are taking and think very differently, right? And so in the first few set of people who join us, for them everything is, let's say, new. But what we again recommend for the second set of people who join us is, take ownership of a task and ensure that you question people, because what might have been right a year ago might not hold its stand today, because the situations are very different, right? Frugality, ownership, and the next most important point is bias for action, right? Because people, we cannot just sit and ideate and do nothing about it. So you need to have the individually, that intent to go and achieve something, and get a work done. Because in a grocery business, unlike the e-commerce world, where you add something and the cart dropouts, right? So when there is something that is not available, no one comes back the second day and checks for that product. This is very immediate need. And if you don't find it in the shop in which you enter, you immediately go to the next shop and buy it. You don't wait for it to come back into the shop to make your purchase. So ensuring the availability of products with a huge bias for action is very important for us. So
Right. So,
frugality,
how
ownership, and bias for action is what we look at.
Right. So, how did the COVID pandemic, affect your startup, your work that you like do?
I think on the business front, it did wonders for us, because we were the only store in the entire region that we were operating that gave at least discounts to customers, or also maintained availability of stock, right? And then on the, let's say, on the working, all the employees and everything on that front, right? what happened is that all of us shifted base to this small town called Kadapa in Andhra Pradesh, which is a 6-hour drive from Bangalore, and all of us staying together as a close knit family in that small town, eating out of the only biryani place that was available, and working out of a very small office made a lot of wonders for us. And now we have slowly shifted to Bangalore.
Right. So I would like to direct my next
We
question
had
to
been
Kaushal.
predominant. Yeah, please.
Your voice is cracking. I mean, is there an internet issue at your end?
I think it should be fine now.
Yeah, now I guess it's okay. So Kaushal, as you are a core team member at SuperK, how has the working experience been for you? And like working under the guidance of Anil, how has that been like?
It's been a phenomenal experience. Basically, got to learn a lot. Joining in the initial days, got to learn everything from scratch. Got to know about how business functions, multiple functionalities of the business, how to run a business basically, right? So that was very much fascinating.
Right. So Anil, what are the key technologies that SuperK is currently focusing on?
Got it. So, I'll explain that in two parts. Basically, all of us who are there in the core team are all tech and product guys. So, for us, building tech was very intuitive and very easy for us, right? And what we chose was to build business first and not the technology. But to build any business, you need technology as an enabler. And we all started building things on no code, or Google spreadsheets itself, right? So the kind of things that we wrote, we built an ERP out of Google Spreadsheets, used no code applications like AppSheet, Utilize, and all these other tools that were available in the market. And we were able to at least identify the choking points of the technology and any design or any business org that we think about. And today we are at a stage where we very clearly know, without investing much into technology, right, what we need. And that is the most interesting phase for any developer coming on board, because they can be very confident that what they build now will be used for long, not something which might be scrapped tomorrow. So that's the philosophy behind the technology piece at SuperK. And today, the multiple things that the team is working on, let's say we are using this open source software called ERP Next, on which we are building all our technology. And we use a Paytm POS solution for our in-house stores to sell the products. So there are a lot of scripts that are written in Python to pull that data from a different third party, put it into the ERP system that we have. We use AWS, GCP, wherever that it is required. On the analytics side, we use GCP and Metabase together to help the people make decisions based on data. And now we are building our own mobile app on React Native. So that will also be very, very interesting for us, because that will help our store partners in this journey to make more informed choices. So it's across the spectrum, from mobile development to web development. Whatever people are interested in is something that they can pick up.
Right. So what vacancies are there in SuperK and what hiring procedure do you follow to hire new talent?
Kaushal, you want to take that?
Yeah. So we're currently looking for hiring full stack developers within the organization. So they'll be working on, again, as Anil said, right? So they'll be working on web applications as well as mobile applications. So huge scope of like knowledge, or they can learn a lot. And the team comprises of people from multiple, like, people who worked in Amazon. People from IITs and ITs, BITS, right? So, huge scope of improvement as such. And the hiring process basically that we're following is we would be having a couple of technical rounds and then a cultural fit round. Uh,
Right. So, recently you partnered with Geeks for Geeks to source the candidates for your tech hirings. So, what was the experience and what are your expectations out of this partnership?
Yeah, so we are looking at again. So it's been a very recent association with the with Geeks for Geeks, right? So we've got a few good candidates who we could talk to, right? And what we're looking at from this association is having someone who can join our team, build great products, which are everlasting, right? So yeah, that is.
Right. So, what are your views on Jobathon, like the hiring contest, and how will it help you in your hiring and tier 3 and tier 4 candidates to start their careers?
So yeah, so I think it is a great platform wherein it helps us understand the candidate better, where they stand, how how they are like technically and also not technical skill, what type of non-technical skills that they have, right? And I think yeah, for candidates as well, it is a very good platform for them. It's like a stepping stone to know what outside corporate world expects out of them.
Right, that's about right. I mean, once we start participating in contests like this, a student can understand what the level of, like what the expectations are in the industry. So, for a startup, what do you look for in a candidate who is suitable to work with your company?
Okay. Sure. So I think, as we did mention, right, people who have high ownership have a good bias for action, and I personally appreciate people who have a large, hunger for growth. Right? So if you don't have the hunger to grow beyond your shoes, then it's just a mediocre job that people get into. And as a startup, we expect people who would want to grow beyond their shoes, take up more responsibilities, and become, let's say, on the technical side, become a tech leader or a CTO themselves.
Right. So, Anil, as a co founder, what advice would you like to give to an entry level developer in any organization, like the developers who are looking for their first jobs?
So, when you develop products, there are you would come across in any company, there are two kinds of developers. One kind who are product engineers who work along with the product managers, help them build a lot of products, build good amount of features. And then there's a second set of developers who are very technical, who would just love to work on some amazing technology and all these things, right? So for a company which is more business oriented, right, which is not building, let's say, too heavy tech products, in the first job I would recommend people to look at opportunities in which they can become product engineers, understand the business, and build products which customers start using. That is when it feels more valuable, both to the organization and to someone who is building those things.
Right. So, do you have any internship opportunities as well?
um Kaushal, at the moment, do
So
you?
at the moment we don't actually. So we're looking at someone with good experience and also someone who is technically sound, who could learn the basics quick and start. Because we're at a phase where we want to as we want to roll out the features as soon as possible. So we want to deploy our energies there towards shipping our features.
Right. So, I guess that's it for the questions I have. One last question. So, to conclude this conversation, what would be your message to the candidates who are watching this video and are looking for an opportunity in SuperK?
Look no further, come join us.
That's really wise. I mean, a lot of the people watching this video, I'm sure they are looking for opportunities to expand their horizons to work with amazing startups like yourself. I mean, I really hope you can find some good talent through this. this jobathon. So I guess that's it for all the questions that I have. Thank you so much, Anil, and thank you so much, Kaushal, for like answering all of our questions and for such an informative session. And thank you all for watching us, and have a great day ahead. Take care.
Thank you,
Thank
Dhoni.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys. See you.